Your life today is a reflection of what you've been willing to tolerate. Look at your life right now. Look at your job. Look at your relationships. Look at your health. Look at your daily habits. All of it, every single part, is shaped by what you've chosen to tolerate. Most people don't ruin their lives in one dramatic moment. No, they ruin their lives slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. They tolerate the job that drains them. They tolerate the relationship that breaks them. They tolerate the habit that weakens them. And they call it normal. That's how mediocrity wins. Not with a loud crash, but with a whisper. It's not that bad. You can live with this. Just settle. And so you stay. You stay in the job that pays too little and costs too much of your soul. You stay in the circle of friends who don't push you higher. You stay in the routine that steals your health and your time. Not because you love it, but because you tolerate it. This is what no one tells you. You don't get what you want in life. You get what you tolerate. You may want success, but if you tolerate laziness, you'll never achieve it. You may want respect, but if you tolerate disrespect, people will keep giving it to you. You may want freedom, but if you tolerate chains, you'll stay a prisoner. Think about the times you swallowed your voice. When your boss piled on extra work without recognition, and you said nothing. When your partner disrespected you, and you stayed silent. When your own body begged you for change, and you ignored it. That silence was permission. Every time you tolerated it, you taught the world, and yourself, that it was okay. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "You become what you give your consent to." When you tolerate weakness, you become weak. When you tolerate negativity, you become negative. When you tolerate excuses, you become excuses. What you allow is what you become. The dangerous part is this: tolerance feels safe. It feels easier than change. It whispers, "Don't rock the boat. Don't risk the unknown. Just stay where you are." And so you stay. You stay stuck. You stay silent. You stay small. But safe isn't safe. Safe is a slow death. Think of a toxic plant. At first, it's small. It doesn't seem dangerous. But left alone, it spreads. It takes over the garden. It chokes out everything good. That's what happens when you tolerate negativity in your life. It starts small, but it grows until it takes over. Let me give it to you straight. The standards you set are the boundaries of your life. If you tolerate disrespect, people will keep disrespecting you. If you tolerate excuses from yourself, you'll keep failing yourself. If you tolerate average, you'll never see greatness. Because life doesn't give you what you dream of. It gives you what you accept. Maybe right now, you feel frustrated. You feel stuck. You look at your life and say, "This isn't what I wanted. This isn't who I wanted to be." And deep down, you know why? Because somewhere along the way, you tolerated too much. But here's the good news. What you tolerate can change. And when you change what you tolerate, you change your life. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who worked in the same job for 20 years. He hated it. Every day, he woke up with dread. But he stayed. Why? Because he tolerated it. One day, he realized, if I keep tolerating this, this will be my whole life. And that thought scared him more than change ever could. So he quit. He started fresh. He built something new. Not because he had all the answers, but because he stopped tolerating less than he deserved. That's the turning point. Not when you learn more. Not when you wait for motivation. Not when you pray for luck. But when you decide, I will no longer tolerate this. That decision alone is the beginning of transformation. Jim Rohn once said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment." I'd add this. Refusing to tolerate less is the foundation that discipline stands on. You can't build discipline on weak standards. You can't build success on tolerated mediocrity. You must draw the line. So let me ask you, what are you tolerating right now? What habits, what relationships, what excuses have you been living with? And how much longer will you let them define you? Because whether you realize it or not, they already are. Your life today is the sum of what you've tolerated until now. But it doesn't have to stay that way. The moment you stop tolerating less, you start building more. And the life you dream of begins the moment you refuse to accept the one that's holding you back. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you pay for it with your future. Low standards don't break you all at once. They break you slowly, silently, one compromise at a time. And because the cost isn't obvious, most people never notice it until it's too late. Think about it. When you tolerate disrespect in a relationship, you don't lose your dignity in a day. You lose it piece by piece. One insult ignored, one boundary crossed, one apology you never received. Until one day, you look in the mirror and wonder where your self-respect went. When you tolerate being underpaid at work, you don't lose your worth in a week. You lose it month after month. Every paycheck reminds you that you settled. Every meeting reminds you that you're undervalued. And your confidence shrinks until you forget what you're capable of. That's the cost of low standards. Not just money, not just time. It's your identity. Because what you tolerate doesn't just shape your circumstances, it shapes you. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "You become what you give your consent to. When you consent to less, you become less. When you allow weakness, you weaken yourself. When you accept average, you become average. And if you're not careful, mediocrity becomes your identity." You've wanted more out of life. You've dreamed of freedom, success, fulfillment. But every time you lowered your standards, you traded a piece of that dream away. You traded health for comfort. You traded peace for toxic people. You traded passion for a paycheck. And the cruelest part? It didn't feel like a trade at first. It felt like survival. But survival is not living. Survival is what happens when you keep paying the cost of low standards. Maya Angelou once said, "Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option." But people do it every day. They tolerate being treated as an option. They tolerate crumbs of respect. They tolerate partners, friends, bosses who don't value them. And what happens? They start to believe they deserve it. That's the deepest cost of low standards. It rewrites the way you see yourself. Think about your daily habits. Every time you skip the workout, you pay a price. Every time you overeat, you pay a price. Every time you waste hours scrolling, you pay a price. And the bill always comes later. In sickness, in weakness, in regret. Jim Rohn said, "We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret." And when you tolerate low standards, you choose regret. You choose the pain that lasts longer. Let's be clear, low standards don't just cost you personally. They cost your future. That business idea you never started, that book you never wrote, that move you never made, all of it dies at the altar of low standards. You told yourself, "It's fine. I'll live with this." But deep down, you know it's not fine. You know it's killing your future. Think about people you admire, the ones who inspire you, the ones you call great. Do you think they tolerated less than they deserved? Do you think they stayed silent in the face of disrespect? Do you think they accepted average effort, average discipline, average standards? Of course not. They refused. They raised the bar. And that's why their lives look different. And here's the danger for you. If you don't raise your standards, your future will look exactly like your present. Same struggles, same frustrations, same regrets. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll still be living the same life because you kept tolerating it. Let me ask you directly, what is your tolerance costing you right now? Maybe it's costing you money. Maybe it's costing you time. Maybe it's costing you peace. Maybe it's costing you respect. Maybe it's costing you the future you once dreamed of. Whatever the cost is, I promise you this, it's too high. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that's what tolerating low standards is: consent. Consent to be treated as less. Consent to live as less. Consent to become less. But you can revoke that consent. You can refuse to keep paying the price. Low standards cost more than you realize. They cost your confidence. They cost your peace. They cost your future. And the longer you tolerate them, the higher the price becomes. So ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to pay? The moment you raise your standards, your life begins to change. Up until now, we've talked about what happens when you tolerate too much. The pain, the cost, the regret. But here's the good news: you don't have to stay there. Your future doesn't have to look like your past, because you have the power to raise your standards. And when you do, everything in your life shifts. Let me tell you something you may not want to hear. You are not stuck because life is unfair. You are stuck because your standards are too low. You've accepted average when you were made for more. You've tolerated disrespect when you deserve honor. You've allowed weakness when you were built for strength. The day you say, "No more," is the day your new life begins. Tony Robbins once said, "Anytime you sincerely want to make a change, the first thing you must do is raise your standards." Not your wishes, not your goals, your standards. Because goals are dreams, but standards are identity. And you will always live up to the standards you set for yourself. Think about it. If your standard is to get by, that's all you'll ever do. If your standard is to work hard when you feel like it, you'll stay inconsistent. If your standard is to accept whatever treatment comes, you'll keep being disrespected. But if your standard is excellence, your actions will rise. If your standard is respect, your relationships will shift. If your standard is health, your habits will change. Your standards set the bar for your life. Here's how you raise them. Step 1. Decide what you will no longer tolerate. This is the starting point. Get honest. Make a list of what you're done accepting. No more toxic friendships. No more lazy mornings. No more excuses. No more self-sabotage. Draw the line. Because until you define what you will no longer tolerate, you'll keep living with it. Step 2. Speak it out loud. Your words have power. When you declare your standards, you set a boundary with yourself and with the world. Say it. I will no longer accept less than respect. I will no longer settle for average effort. I will no longer ignore my health. Your voice reinforces your choice. Step 3. Back it up with action. Standards without action are just wishes. Action proves you mean it. Want better health? Change what you eat today. Want more respect? Speak up today. Want growth? Learn something today. Small actions aligned with higher standards create massive change. Let me give you a real example. Oprah Winfrey grew up in poverty, abuse, and hardship. By all standards, the world expected her to stay small. But she refused. She raised her standards. She demanded more from herself and more from life. And because of that, she became one of the most influential voices of our time. Raising your standards doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. It means you stop bending to the level of your environment, and you start pulling your environment up to your level. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop talking about what you want. Be it. Set the standard, and then rise to it." Let me speak to your heart. You've lowered your standards before. You've accepted less. You've tolerated things that broke you. But that doesn't have to be your story anymore. You can raise your standards today. And when you do, everything changes. Because people will treat you the way you teach them to treat you. And you've been teaching them through what you tolerate. Raise the standard, and they will adjust, or they will leave. Either way, your life gets better. Your standards are your destiny. Raise them, and your life rises with them. Stay low, and your life stays low. The choice is yours. What you tolerate shapes you. but what you refuse to tolerate transforms you. The life you want begins the moment you stop tolerating the one that's holding you back. We've walked through the truth. You don't get what you dream of. You don't get what you hope for. You don't even get what you deserve. You get what you tolerate. Look at your life right now. Every area of it. Your health, your finances, your relationships, your career is shaped by the standards you set and the things you've been willing to accept. And if you're not where you want to be, it's because you've tolerated too little from yourself and too much from everything else. But this is the good news. Your future doesn't have to be a repeat of your past. You can choose today to refuse. To refuse mediocrity. To refuse disrespect. To refuse weakness. To refuse excuses. And when you do, you will rise. Refusing doesn't mean life gets easy. Refusing means life gets real. It means you'll face conflict. It means you'll lose people. It means you'll be uncomfortable. But it also means you'll grow. It means you'll earn respect. It means you'll find freedom. It means you'll finally live. Think about it. The moment Rosa Parks refused to tolerate injustice, history changed. The moment Nelson Mandela refused to tolerate oppression, a nation changed. The moment you refuse to tolerate less, your life will change. Because refusal is power. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." But belief without standards is just fantasy. Your dream needs action. And that action begins with raising the bar and refusing to lower it again. Let me ask you, what are you still tolerating today that is stealing your tomorrow? Is it a habit? Is it a relationship? Is it a job? Is it your own excuses? Whatever it is, it has no power unless you give it permission. And permission ends today. Here's your call to action. Draw the line. Say it out loud. I refuse to tolerate less than I deserve. I refuse to tolerate disrespect. I refuse to tolerate weakness from myself. I refuse to tolerate mediocrity. And then, prove it. Back it with action. Take one step today that shows the world and shows yourself that your standards are higher now. Maybe that step is walking away from a toxic person. Maybe it's sending out your resume. Maybe it's saying no to junk food. Maybe it's waking up early to work on your dream. Whatever it is, do it. Do it today. Do it now. Because your future begins the moment you stop tolerating the present that's been holding you back. And here's the truth you need to remember. When you raise your standards, people will test them. They'll push back. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're difficult. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You are different. And that's exactly the point. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So if the people around you are pulling you down, you need to change your circle. If they're keeping you small, you need to step away. Because you can't tolerate low standards and expect a high standard life. This is your moment. Your turning point. The line in the sand where you decide that enough is enough. No more tolerating what drains you. No more tolerating what breaks you. No more tolerating what keeps you from your destiny. You become what you tolerate, but you can choose what you tolerate. And the moment you refuse to accept less, the world has no choice but to rise to meet you. So raise your standards. Reject excuses. Demand more of yourself and of life. Because the life you want begins the moment you stop tolerating the one that's holding you back. If this message is speaking to you, don't forget to subscribe to The Balanced Beat for more life-changing wisdom and powerful motivation. Hit that like button to support the channel and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. We're building something meaningful here, and your support means everything.